Okay, so this video is going to be a bit of an addendum to the last one in which we redesigned the Starship Troopers Warrior Bug into something that's a bit more accurate to what was described in the book. The book has a few other cool concepts that I thought might be fun to try and illustrate, such as the Skinnies, which were a second alien race that was mentioned in the book. Initially, the Skinnies are fighting on the same side of the bugs, but at some point they switch and are fighting in alliance with the Terran Federation. However, while I thought it would be fun to do some alien designs for the Skinnies were actually a prominent part of the kids' show Roughnecks: A Starship Troopers Chronicle, which I would actually encourage you to go check out. It's kind of dated at this point, and it's got some older CG animation that's not exactly Jimmy Neutron awkward, but not exactly on par with today. Still, it's a pretty good series that does a better job, in my opinion, of adapting some of the source material than the movie did. However, there's one thing that I haven't seen adapted in any Starship Troopers media so far, and that is the concept of the Calebs, or the Neo Dogs as they're referred to in the book. The Neo Dogs are a genetically engineered canine hybrid that is psychically connected to its handler and is also capable of talking. So, I'm mainly going to use this as an excuse to draw some doggos while I sketch out a few concepts of what I think the Neo Dog could look like. Meanwhile, I'll explain some of the in-universe lore surrounding this genetically engineered canine hybrid. So, this video is going to have a lot of sketching and some fun sci-fi lore. But before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone for watching this video. Now let's begin. So, let's get into some of the lore surrounding Neo Dogs, or Calebs as they're also referred to. Caleb isn't really like any dog that we have today. In fact, it might not even be a dog at all. A Caleb is rather a mutated symbiote that's made from a dog's stock. A trained Caleb is far more intelligent than any breed of dog that we have today, and yes, they can talk. However, you'll have to train your ear in order to better understand their accent, as their mouths can't shape the B, the M, P, or V sound, as this is a bit of an innate biological handicap from having a split palate. However, the Neo-Dogs do just fine supplementing other letters in place of the ones they can't pronounce, and with that, their speech is just as clear as any human. The implication of this is that in 1959, Robert Heinlein essentially came up with the concept of Scooby-Doo, with the addition of being strapped with explosives. But we haven't got that far yet, so let's continue. The Caleb's mission on the battlefield is that of reconnaissance. It's not armed outside of its teeth. Its primary directive is to hear, see, and smell, and communicate back to its human partner via radio. Although the Caleb is not equipped with any external defensive measures, as alluded to earlier, they are equipped with an explosive device, which can be remote detonated via the Caleb or its human partner, should the Caleb be gravely wounded, killed, or run the risk of being captured. As for the Caleb's human partner, what I referred to as a handler before is more of an equal, a partner, a pairing with a deep psychological and emotional connection that is likened to that of a marriage. This emotional and psychological connection is so great that should one member of this union fall as a casualty in battle, then the emotional turmoil might be so great as to incapacitate the surviving member. Because of this, when a human partner to a Caleb falls in combat, there is little to no choice than to put down the surviving Caleb, out of a mercy to the animal. Should the Caleb fall in combat, then the human partner will have to be restrained, sedated, and hospitalized for a period of weeks, maybe even months. But even then, the psychological wounds may be too great for the human partner to ever be fully rehabilitated. So, with all that information about the Calebs, how useful were they in the war against the bugs? Based on the Terran Federation's first tactical strikes on the bug colony worlds, Neo-Dogs proved to be terribly ineffective. While the early conflicts of the war were claimed as a strategic victory, the reality of the matter was the Terran Federation's forces were in complete disarray, for none was this more true than the Canine Corps. Had the Canine Corps even been able to land at the designated drop point, their mission was that of reconnaissance, to surveil from the periphery of the target and range outward, providing tactical intelligence to the interdiction squads. However, the Neo-Dogs proved to be equally ill-equipped to handle the terrors of warfare against the pseudo-arachnids as the troopers were upon first engagement. Because of this, terrified out of their minds, most of the Neo-Dogs simply charged the first bug that they encountered and made use of their detonation device. And with their Calebs gone, the human partners did not last long either. And while many of the tactics employed by the Terran Federation were pretty disastrous in their early conflicts, they learned quickly from their mistakes. And subsequent Neo-Dogs were better trained not to lose their cool at the first sight or smell of a bug. Rather, they were better able to observe and evade the enemy while performing their tactical reconnaissance duties. And that concludes the lore section of the video. Now we move over to the art side. I actually did a lot more sketching outside of what I just included in this video. I was looking at different breeds of dogs that I might want to include in a bit of a mishmash to create my Neo-Dog. Throughout the sketching, I was primarily just using a number 2 pencil and a black Prismacolor colored pencil. The colored pencil is nice because it's a lot more permanent and far less blendable than graphite is. Next, I'm going to try something a little different on the sketch that you see here, and I'm going to be using this water brush pen. This is basically a brush pen that has a water reservoir attached to it, and what I'm going to do is put a few drops of ink in the already partially filled water reservoir. This will allow me to do a sort of diluted ink wash on this sketch, which will help me to build up the core shadows and shade this drawing. You can find these water brush pens just about anywhere. Art stores, online. You can usually get a pack of several for just a few dollars. It's usually ideal to have a few of these available if you're doing a lot of traveling, you're on the go, you're doing plein air painting, or some watercolor sketching. Or you can find some other little inventive uses for them like I'm doing here. I find it's good to have these when you're working with a paper that's not otherwise cut out for using a lot of wet media. So give them a try, or not, find whatever you like to sketch with, get inspired, and then go to town creating a bunch of sketches. Okay, well, it's a little bit later now, but I got to have a really fun sketching session. I got to draw some doggos and do a little bit of a deep dive into a book that I really enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to everyone who watched to the end of the video, or even if you just skipped ahead. Really, it means a lot to me. It would also mean a lot to me if you took the time to like the video and maybe even consider subscribing. I'm going to have new videos like this one coming out soon enough, so be on the lookout for those. Until then, give some of this a try, get inspired, get creative, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.